After 7 weeks of traveling across country, we have arrived in Maine. When we left Idaho July 27th, we weren't sure where we would settle. We spent hundreds of hours researching and comparing different states and locations within those states. A list was compiled of things important to us when looking for a place to plant ourselves. We went back and forth researching states to no end until we ultimately decided there is no place that's 100% perfect. However, the state that came the closest was Maine. Maine has few people when compared to other states. In fact, there are about the same amount of people in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, as in the entire state of Maine. Maine is 80% forest land, has lots of outdoor activities, plenty of hunting and fishing, snowy winters, and great seafood. Did I mention Maine has snowy winters? Maine residents are pretty laid back too. So here we are at our rental house in Rumford, Maine, where we will live for a month while we look for a home. This house, like many in Maine, was built in the late 1800s, and their neighbors are very quiet and say nothing at all because it's a graveyard. There are graves there dating back to the very early 1800s. Wow. We woke up to road construction in front of our rental the very first morning we were here. It was entertaining, and we even got the chance to learn a little more about the area from one of the Rumford city workers. As we travel around the state, it's clear Mainers like their antique cars, and they have some nice ones. Maine has towns named after several countries such as Mexico, Peru, Norway, Poland, and even the country Tim's ancestors traveled from, Sweden. Seafood. I mentioned Maine has good seafood, and nothing comes to mind when Maine seafood is mentioned more than lobster, or lobster, as it's said here. Our first taste of fresh lobster was here in Freeport, where we both ordered a lobster roll. Basically, it's a hot dog bun with a shovel full of lobster meat inside and slathered in butter. The word delicious doesn't even come close. A lobster roll is lobster without the fight of getting it out of the shell. No trip to Maine would be complete without visiting one of the more popular landmarks named for one of their most popular citizens, L.L. Bean. The flagship store in Freeport is something to behold, with almost anything and everything you could want, from clothing to camping gear. It's even open 24 hours a day. There is a giant Bean's Maine hunting shoe car out front. And yes, in these crazy times, L.L. Bean is looking for a few good employees. I have discovered my new favorite snack or dessert craving. It's a whoopie pie. Let's just say I love a whoopie pie. In Maine, logging is a big industry, and there's a statue of Paul Bunyan and his ox Babe in the Rumford Square to commemorate the logging industry here. Maine is known for red hot dogs, and yes, they are delicious. Maine even has its own soda called Moxie. Moxie is an acquired taste and falls somewhere between root beer and cough medicine. A dear pastor we know who lived in Maine said of Moxie, "You got to try it, then you'll either like it or cuss me for suggesting it." It's actually not too bad. We told you Maine is full of God's beauty, and one of the places we visited nearby is Weld and Rangeley Lake. We spent a good part of an afternoon exploring the place. We found some interesting trees growing over rocks when we were exploring Rangeley. The locals tell us they often see moose whenever they visit this region. A trip to the coast was high on our list of things to do, so we decided to incorporate a train ride on the trip. The weather was gorgeous, and the train ride through the small country towns was spectacular. Later, we spent some time sightseeing just outside the coastal town of Bar Harbor, or Bahaba. It was time to get our fix of lobster again, and there is no shortage of lobster shacks there. This time we ordered the lobster in the shell. They were delicious, but we have both decided that our favorite way to eat lobster is in a lobster roll. It's the lobster without the fight. Stay tuned for house hunting.